Well, here we are. It's Head for the Hills. Yeah, Dave Trafford here with you and Glenn Crowder. It's an FYI podcast done for the Story Studio Network. And we need to tell you the podcast is brought to you by ewool. Turn the heat on. Keep the fun going. Glenn Crowder, we're going to talk a little bit more about this ewool stuff. I was looking at their website. It's some pretty cool stuff.
It is some really good stuff. And believe me, on cold days, Dave, and I've been out, as you know, every weekend I ski somewhere. It has been a godsend, if I could say that, because at minus 30, minus 45, when I was up at Deerhurst, and again at Sir Stam's, Hidden Valley, all these different places, you really feel the fact that the cold weather can get to you, especially if you're skiing most of the day. It's a godsend, as I mentioned, and there's a real benefit to the industry.
Well, I know last weekend you and I were exchanging text messages, and I think the warmest it got with the wind chill where I was like minus 30. So it was a frosty one. You bet.
You're on the ski hill and you're on the snow, and you've got your wonderful ski suits on in one and everything else, but at the same time, sometimes your hands and your feet get cold, and also the vest that they have is really unique as well.
I want to get to our guest, but I just want to get a follow-up on what we were talking about last week. You were out at Earl Bales last weekend, just kind of following up on what was going on with the urban ski hills in Toronto. I know we had to close the Centennial site, but how were things at Earl Bales?
Earl Bales looked really good. I was really surprised talking to Howie Dayton, who's basically running the City of Toronto, both ski centers. They've got lots of snow. I was totally surprised. You drive in, and it'll be featured on my Toronto Sun article next week as well. And I've already talked about a News Talk 1010, but you're driving at the top like Le Massif in Quebec, and you really don't get a feel that you're at a ski hill until you get around the corner and you get to actually see the ski hill and you see the towers for the chairs. It really was impressive. I was really taken back, and it's the first time I've covered an urban ski center, and we'll be back for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, we're heading into Family Day. I know you've got a guest that we want to kind of take a look at what's coming up on this long holiday weekend for some across the country.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And really delighted to have Paul Pinchbeck, president of the Canadian Ski Council. Good morning, Paul. How are you?
Good morning, Glenn. I'm doing great.
Paul, just want to thank you very much for coming on. First of all, maybe tell us a little bit about the Canadian Ski Council and its role in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. The Canadian Ski Council is the organization that represents the interests of Canada's 237 ski areas, all the way from Marble Mountain in Newfoundland to Vancouver Island. And we're primarily a marketing organization. We work, one might say, we work tirelessly to try and grow the sport by bringing new Canadians into what we think is one of the greatest family experiences, one of the greatest social experiences that you can have while still getting some exercise.
That's so true. And speaking about early, we've got you up early because I understand you may be out west skiing.
Well, I'm not on a hill yet, but I am in Rosslyn, BC, home of Red Mountain, and just completing the first leg of a small tour to meet as many ski areas and get them all ready to make a further push in the future to grow our sport.
That's fantastic, Paul. Just before we talk about Family Day, there's something that I've noticed and talked to quite a lot of ski resort operators, because as you know, I travel every week to different resorts. Is the fact that we're seeing an influx of new skiers. We're seeing beginners. Matter of fact, when you see Mount St. Louis Moonstone, they're almost dedicating a whole side of the hill, like Moonstone, to this new demographic coming in. Have you noticed that as well? Has it been the resort operators have suggested that there's a real opportunity here for all of us?
Well, it's definitely an opportunity. As you know, Canada is a very multicultural country, and we are growing, albeit with a little bit of suspension for the last couple of years, through immigration. People like Mount St. Louis, other resorts across the country, there is not a market that I can think of that hasn't invested in what we would call learning terrain, dedicated beginner centers. Back when you and I learned to ski, in fact, I learned to ski at Earl Bales Park for the first time in North York. But, back when we learned to ski, you kind of were thrown out on the hill. It was a lesson maybe, and you were in with every other skier. Now we've invested significantly in beginner terrain areas that are much more closely controlled from the standpoint of only being beginners and giving you the best opportunity to learn. I think what that's allowed us to do is host large numbers of all types of Canadians, but especially new Canadians, because our focus has been on trying to extend the outreach, the open hand, if you will, to say, hey, come join us and experience what we think is a really great sport.
Can I just ask a question, Paul? Just in terms of that and the importance of what we've talked about, and both you and Glenn have alluded to the fact that obviously for a bunch of reasons, COVID not the least of which, the tourism in the industry has really taken a hit over the last 2 years. And I think people underestimate how important that is. Recreational tourism, period. Never mind just skiing on its own. How do we stand this back up again? Because I'm hearing, yes, there are going to be, restrictions will be lifted, but there's still some hesitancy among a lot of people who are still, thinking about, well, should I, shouldn't I?
I think that there's a couple of issues. If you think about the greater tourism market, it's about encouraging people to get out and travel again. I mean, there are wide swaths of the population who are, as you say, hesitant. I think Canada has a lot of protocols. All of our operators have a lot of protocols, but there's no doubt we're going to need our domestic tourism and then our international tourism to flourish. We need to lower some barriers for those international tourism when the time is right, and we believe the time is right now. And then the other thing we need to do is make sure that we are also cultivating that very important fuel for our industry, and that is a great workforce. So that'll help us get back on a sort of a global Canada-wide tourism basis. For ski, the neat thing about skiing is that other than the Ontario shutdown last year, no ski area in North America has closed due to COVID-19 during the core of the season. We had some ski areas voluntarily close at the end of last year, but we've weathered the storm well. We have maintained our protocols, and we've spent a lot of time on those protocols to keep guests safe. And we can find no documented case of skier to skier or skier to staff member transmission of COVID-19. So we think we're well positioned to grow as we come out of this pandemic.
And Paul, I have to tell you, after traveling as you do across the country, I was so impressed right from the west to the east over in Quebec about the resorts abiding by the COVID rules, the restrictions, the everything in place. I was really impressed on how everyone is playing the rules and actually taking it above and beyond a little bit by the rules, making sure that we all played within that boundary so the government had no concerns whatsoever.
Yeah, that's one of the hallmarks of being in the ski business, and is that you are in a risky business at time. You're dealing with an outdoor sport that has variable conditions and things like that. So we've become very good operators. We've learned over many decades to be able to control our environment to provide the best experience possible. And the COVID-19 pandemic response, masks, etc., are very much part of our wheelhouse. We're good at it.
Well, you got the message out to all the resort operators, and that's fantastic. Because I was most impressed with everyone, not just the local ones, but also the destination as well. Okay, we've got Family Day coming up on Monday, and you've got something special for us as well.
Yes, the Canadian Ski Council has been selling lift tickets. We call them the Canadian Lift Pass for the last number of years. And that Lift Pass is on sale. It's already a deal. You're already saving 25 to 30% on your lift tickets, but you can pop online and grab the code from liftpass.ca and save an additional 10%. Get out and go skiing.
Yeah, well, that's great, Paul. Listen up, Paul. It's a pleasure talking to you, and thank you very much for joining us. Have a great time skiing out west. I'll be out in BC as of next week, skiing at Sun Peak with Nancy Green, and then off to Whistler after that. So I'm looking forward to that. But have yourself a great time out west, and thanks again, Paul.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Enjoy your trip.
Glenn, we were just, when you hear Paul talking about how they're trying to stand the tourism back up and how, important it is, the jobs that they've done at the resorts, as much and all as we're kind of on the tail end of the season here now, I'm glad we're finishing with a bit of a bang, right? I mean, seriously, just being able to get outdoors and the idea that we can now, even here in Ontario, where we're beginning to see restrictions lifted, people can kind of get out and breathe, right?
Yeah, we are finally, and you know what? Ski industry's been pretty lucky. I know we had a shutdown last year. This year we've been very lucky because the government has said, okay, well, because we need fresh air, we need to get out and blow the stink off, as you said from your mom in the old days. Exactly, and that's exactly what we're doing on the weekend. So we're very, very lucky. And it's been something that I've really noticed. I'm in the golf business as well, that people just embrace this. And with skiing, it's a natural because we're naturally social distance because of the ski.
Yeah, yeah.
We're natural, and the ski resorts are doing a fantastic job with restrictions, masks, and stuff like that. So yes, you're absolutely right. It's been a good roll, and we got a little bit more to go yet, and some cold weather, by the way, still to come.
Indeed. So, and for that reason, we're pleased to say the podcast is brought to you by ewool. Turn the heat on, keep the fun going, and we're happy to welcome in Alain Desmeules. He is the the CEO and founder of ewool. And Alain, it's good of you to join us. And I'm telling you, I was looking at your stuff on the website the other day, and outside it was minus 30, and I thought, okay, I can see why one of your vests would come in handy at this time of year.
Oh, for sure, and it really does work.
Alain, I'll tell you what, I've been most impressed wearing your equipment this year. I've been out, I ski every weekend somewhere in the world, and it's been cold this winter so far. And as Dave mentioned, last weekend at Sir Sam's was like minus 30. Before that, Deerhurst in Hidden Valley was minus 35. You saved my butt, my friend, because ordinarily I would never in a million years be out there. But when I put that vest on, your heated vest, and I put the heated glove liners, you make my life much more enjoyable.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear, because that's exactly when I first wanted to design that product. That's the goal I wanted to achieve, and is when you push that button, you want to have I wanted to have the feeling that you're completely like you're dipped in a hot tub. You know that feeling when you're in a hot tub outside and it's minus 40, but you're so hot and warm and cozy in the water and your head is out. What a great feeling. And that's what I was wanting. I wanted to achieve with a vest that was powerful enough to give the heat, that amount of heat, that you really feel like you're outside. It's unreal. It's cold, but it's not cold. It's warm.
So explain the technology to me, because at what do I risk being overheated? Because if I'm out being active and, presumably I'm not layering up like I might have otherwise because I've just got the vest on with my jacket or whatever it might be. Do I run the risk of overheating here?
Well, yes and no. The thing is that it's in the term is a thermoregulation system. So basically, you have the power, but we rely on your intelligence because, of course, that's why we don't make those for kids. And so, if you're running, you have to turn it off or adjust the temperature because there's temperature settings.
Got it.
So you have high. So if you're not moving, you're in a lift going up the ski hill, or you're waiting in line and outside, you're not moving, you're cold, and you blast it, and then you have outstanding amount of heat coming onto you. So even if you're not moving, you're really warm. But if you start running or you're going down the ski hill, you have to adjust the temperature, and maybe you have to shut it off. So that's the thing, you're constantly adjusting with and that's why it's thermal regulation. But yes, if you don't turn it off, you're going to be overeating.
Yeah, well, I could see there was a bunch of guys out ice fishing I saw last week, and I'm thinking, okay, they're just sitting there, so they'd be cutting that wind right in half, so they'd be wanting to make sure they had the constant heat. When you look at are the gloves or the liners for your gloves sort of the same technology?
Absolutely. So everything we come out, we're not. There's other companies out there making heated gloves and heated garments, but what is different from us is that it's the power, is the amount of heat. So everything we do is 5 to 7 times more heat. That's why it's a little bit more expensive, but that's because the heating elements and the battery and the electric components to be able to give off that amount of heat is what is expensive. So basically, the gloves was designed from the beginning with the same intention that this is meant to work at an extreme cold temperature. So when it's really cold, you have that heat. It's near burning. Like if you're actually using those liners inside, it's not comfortable because it's really hot. But it's not meant to be something that you would wear inside. It's meant to be outside at minus 40. So that's why we gave off that amount of heat, and it works.
Yeah, I know we're talking about, Glenn, sort of the recreational purposes. I just saw a bunch of guys doing road work, emergency road work. I could see the construction guys would think, I might need this.
Absolutely. And you know what, Alain, I have to tell you that the reason, well, there's many reasons why I love your product, ewool, but I love the liners because I have about 4 or 5 different pairs of gloves. And you're absolutely right, because you can regulate the temperature. If you have a thinner glove and it's a little cool, you can turn that up or down, and that's the benefit, because I don't just have one glove like many companies have, just a glove. And, we're a bit of a fashionistas once in a while on the slopes, and it doesn't quite match that ski suit, but the other glove does, so that's why we move them back and forth. And also, I have to tell you that your vest is a godsend, because, in Ontario, and I can only stress this, in Ontario, we do a lot of standing around in the lines, and we don't go very far up the mountain in the chair, with maybe a 2-minute ride max. So that's where you need that steady, consistent temperature, not the high, but probably low, just to keep you warm as you're standing around a lot. But I'll tell you what, when I'm skiing in the destination resorts, like the big mountains, I'll turn it on because it's a long ride up the mountain. But then when I get to the top of the mountain, I'm going to turn it off. And then I come down and I ski down, and then you got another maybe 5, 10, 15-minute ride up the hill, and sometimes the conditions aren't great. So the versatility in that vest, sometimes you don't even need the heat on. It keeps you that warm. Like, the technology is above and beyond anything I've ever seen anywhere in any of the company before. I really commend you on that.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And also that's cool, because one thing that allows you is especially when you're skiing, is to have a little less bulk in your clothing, because you can rely on the buffer for when you're not moving. When you're moving is all done with the vest. You adjust the temperature. So the insulation on top, the jacket that you'll wear, could be significantly less thick and puffy. Mm-hmm. So that is good when you're doing sports like skiing.
I know you mentioned off the top that this is meant right now for adults, but is there an opportunity here to develop something that's suitable for younger kids? Because I can see that would discourage a kid from skiing if they're standing around freezing their rear end off.
That's true. I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I made one for her. I realized the kids are with their jackets open. They're never cold. They never complain. And I'm worried that the opposite would be true. Like, the system would be on and they're moving, and they're a little bit in their bubble, and I'm just worried. And it's possible to make and I think every parent wants their kids to be warm, and just for that reason. But I'm out of safety, and because of the power, maybe I could make a less power, but it's something that I'm thinking of because of having kids myself. But something I'm also worried that it's better for an adult to be able to have that, be smart about it. Yeah.
No, well, I mean, I get it. We don't want to put anybody in danger, but I can see where, there'll be people banging on your door. Get at it. So let's get me one for the kids.
Alain, I got one more question. Future. You have glove liners right now. You've got the vest right now. My feet are cold sometimes. Any possibility down the road there could be something along heated socks?
Oh, well, you'll be happy to hear that we've been working on it. It's probably the hardest product that we've been working for the longest time, is to come up with the perfect solution to warm up the feet. And believe it or not, that had been the much bigger challenge than the vest itself. So, but I'm happy to say that we're coming out. They're being made as we speak, and they're coming out in September. And we think that this is going to bring the same power and quality that we found in the liners and the glove liners and the heated vest. You're going to have that with we're going to call it an overstock, because it's going to go over your merino wool sock, let's say, thin, and then it's going to go over on top of it. And it's really cool that what's coming. Well, you're going to like it.
I'm glad you said that, because the present ones that I see now, they're huge and thick on the bottom. I get a ski boot that fits me just perfect, and when I cannot wear those socks underneath because they're too thick and my boot doesn't fit properly. So if you bring something that's going to go over top of my regular thin sock, that's a fantastic idea.
That's exactly what's coming. And the biggest problem with shoes and toes is that people were complaining that they buy those socks and they they don't even know if it's on or off because they don't feel the heat. And in this case, we really like go along with the same idea of like having a lot of heat. So you're going to see the difference with those socks.
See, I was thinking this would be great because I like to skate, but I realize I wear bare feet in my skates anyway, so this isn't really going to help me at all. So, Alain, thanks for joining us.
Okay,
and thanks for the support for the Head for the Hills podcast. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Len.
All right, well, that'll do it for us here. Glenn, where are you off to next week?
That's a busy show. That's really good. That's a lot of information from the Canadian Ski Council right to why we're going to be on the hills. This weekend, I'm actually heading to Hockley Valley tomorrow, and then I'll be with you on Thursday next week, of course, to talk about it. We've got the 24 Hours of Blue coming up at Blue Mountain, so we've got Michael Nye, the organizer of 24 Hours of Blue, and also Tara Lovell. She's public relations from Blue Mountain. She'll talk about the involvement that Blue Mountain has. Also talk a bit about her season as well. So we've got a lot of great things coming up. And then I head to BC on Friday to enjoy that. So we're really looking forward. Also, you can catch everything on the Toronto Sun. I have my weekly ski column on Wednesdays, and that should be a great feature as well.
And you can listen to Glenn Crowder on News Talk 1010 on Saturday and Sunday mornings, and he rounds out the conditions and where you might want to be and where you might want to head to the hills on your own. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for making this a part of your on-demand audio routine. It is Head for the Hills. It's an FYI podcast produced for Story Studio Network by Eye Contact Productions. Talk to you next week.